I sat in my car, the sun setting low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue that danced through the windshield. I always loved this time of day. The way the world seemed to slow down just a little, wrapping everything in a soft glow. But that evening was different. I was driving home from a long shift at the hospital, where I worked as a nurse. My legs ached, and my mind was racing with thoughts of my patients, their families, and the challenges I faced every day. As I turned onto a quiet street, I noticed the familiar blue lights flashing in my rearview mirror. My heart sank. I had been pulled over before, but I always felt a knot tighten in my stomach when it happened. I pulled over to the side of the road, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. The officer approached my car, and I could see his serious expression through the window. I rolled it down, my palms slightly sweaty. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, his voice steady but firm. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I shook my head, trying to stay composed. "No, officer. I'm not sure." "You were going a bit over the speed limit back there," he replied, glancing at his notepad. "May I see your license and registration?" I nodded, my heart racing. I fumbled through my glove compartment for my registration, my mind racing with thoughts. Was it my imagination, or did he seem more serious because I was a black woman? I handed him my documents, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thank you," he said, taking a step back. I watched him as he walked to his patrol car, feeling a mix of anxiety and confusion. I was a nurse, always trying to help others, and here I was, feeling vulnerable and exposed. As I waited, I couldn't help but think about how many times I had seen videos and heard stories of encounters between police and black individuals that didn't end well. My heart ached for those who had suffered at the hands of injustice. I closed my eyes for a moment, praying that this would be different. The officer returned, my license and registration in hand. He leaned down to my window again, and I could see a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it empathy? "Ma'am, I'm going to let you go with a warning this time," he said, his tone softening. "Just be mindful of the speed limits, okay?" I blinked, surprised. "Thank you, officer. I appreciate it." But before I could drive away, something unexpected happened. The officer hesitated, looking at me with a strange intensity. I just wanted to say, "I know it's tough out there right now. People are hurting, and it's easy to feel like you're alone, but you're not." I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. Here was this officer, a stranger, acknowledging my pain. "Thank you for saying that," I managed to reply, my voice shaky. "It means a lot." He nodded, and for a moment we just looked at each other. Then, he stepped back, allowing me to drive away. As I pulled back onto the road, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but also a lingering sadness. The world was complicated, and even small moments like this one highlighted the struggles we faced. I drove home, my mind racing, reflecting on what had just happened. I thought about how we often only hear the negative stories, how they drown out the rare moments of connection and understanding. When I finally got home, I sat on my couch, still processing the encounter. I picked up my phone and decided to share my experience on social media. I wrote about the officer's kindness, how it had surprised me, and how it made me feel seen in a time when it often felt like the world was against us. As I typed, I felt a sense of catharsis. I wanted others to hear this story, to know that not every encounter had to end in fear or anger. Sometimes, there could be moments of connection, even in the most unexpected places. The reactions started pouring in almost immediately. Friends, family, and even strangers shared their own stories of kindness and understanding. I felt a warmth in my heart, knowing that this was a shared experience, one that transcended race and circumstance. In the days that followed, I found myself thinking more and more about that officer. I wondered what had led him to make that choice, to reach out with kindness instead of authority. I hoped that he was okay, that he was navigating his own struggles in a world that often felt divided. One evening, a few weeks later, I was at a community event focused on healing and unity. I shared my story there, and it resonated with so many people. It felt good to talk about the importance of empathy, especially in our current climate. We all needed to hear stories of hope and kindness, and I wanted to be part of that change. As I wrapped up my talk, I noticed a familiar figure in the back of the room. My heart raced as I realized it was the officer. He stood there, listening intently. After I finished, he approached me, a shy smile on his face. "Hi, I'm Officer Matthews," he said, extending his hand. "I heard what you said, and it really touched me." I shook his hand, feeling a rush of emotions. "Thank you for what you did that night," I said, my voice filled with sincerity. "It meant more than you know." He nodded, his eyes reflecting understanding. "I'm just trying to do my part in making things better," he replied. "It's not always easy, but I believe we can change things one interaction at a time." We talked for a while, sharing our experiences and thoughts on how we could bridge the gap between communities and police. It felt like a moment of hope, a step toward understanding. I realized that sometimes it just took a single encounter to spark a change. As the evening came to an end, I felt a sense of gratitude swell within me. I had entered that night feeling uncertain, but I left with a renewed sense of purpose. I knew that our journey wouldn't be easy, but together, we could make a difference. Driving home that night, I replayed the events in my mind. I thought about how one simple interaction had the power to create ripples of change. It reminded me that we all have the ability to choose kindness, to reach out with empathy, and to connect with one another, no matter the circumstances. Life is full of unexpected moments, and sometimes those moments can leave us in awe. I realized that the encounter with Officer Matthews was just the beginning of a larger conversation. A conversation about understanding, compassion, and the power of human connection. As I parked my car and walked into my house, I felt a sense of hope. I knew that while there would always be challenges ahead, we had the ability to change the narrative, to create a world where everyone felt seen and valued. That night, I went to bed with a heart full of gratitude and the belief that together, we could create a brighter future. This experience became a pivotal moment in my life, one that fueled my passion for advocating for change and unity. I continued to share my story, encouraging others to speak up and share their experiences. Each time I did, I could feel the power of connection growing stronger within our community. Months passed, and Officer Matthews and I kept in touch. We began working together on initiatives that aimed to build bridges between law enforcement and the communities they served. We organized events, discussions, and workshops, all focused on fostering understanding and respect. The response was overwhelming. People showed up, eager to engage in conversations that mattered. We created a safe space where everyone could share their thoughts, fears, and hopes. It was a beautiful sight to see people from different backgrounds coming together, united in the belief that we could create change. Through this journey, I learned that change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a commitment to listening and understanding one another. But every step we took brought us closer to our goal. A world where kindness and empathy reigned supreme. As I reflected on that evening, when I was pulled over, I realized that sometimes the most profound moments come from the most unexpected places. It's a reminder that we are all human, navigating a world filled with complexities, but we have the power to make a difference. And so, I carried that message in my heart, sharing it with everyone I met. I knew that together, we could create a legacy of understanding, compassion, and hope. And with each passing day, I felt a little more in awe of the beauty that exists in our shared humanity.